Before anything else, if you are a Golden State Warriors fan or you simply refuse to watch the end of a dynasty in slow motion, do the following right now. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This helps a lot to keep this space alive. Make sure you receive every update about trade rumors, behind-the-scenes stories, and deep analysis. And it also sends a clear message to the front office. The fan base is alert, informed, and is not going to silently watch this team decline. So drop a like, subscribe, and come with me, because today the conversation is serious, direct, and full of big names. When we look at the current moment in the NBA, it is impossible to ignore a contrast that is completely exposed. On one side, you have a veteran like Stephen Curry carrying Golden State night after night, trying to keep the franchise relevant in the Western Conference race. On the other, you have a new generation showing up without asking for permission, like the phenomenon Cooper Flagg, who has already started to get used to the spotlight, double teams, and absurd expectations placed on his name. While one is trying to prove he is not ready to step down from the pedestal yet, the other seems determined to skip steps and take the express elevator straight to the top shelf of the greats. Cooper Flagg has drawn attention not just because of the numbers, but because of how quickly his game is maturing. For a long time, his weak point was the three-point shot. There were people who said that if his jumper didn't click, he would be just another physical, aggressive, but predictable player. Suddenly, he strings together a game knocking down shot after shot, hitting 4 of 6 from beyond the arc, breaking the doubt around his own shooting. For a guy who had been hovering around something like just over 20% on three-point attempts, this is not just evolution. It is a message to the entire league that his offensive package is still far from its ceiling. But the most striking detail didn't come from the box score. It came from someone who watches him every day. Nikola Jokic, a 3-time MVP, one of the smartest players this sport has ever seen, was asked what impressed him most about Flagg. He didn't start by talking about his physical strength, his leaping ability, or his jumper. He highlighted his calm. He said Cooper Flagg looks much older than he really is when he is on the court, that he plays as if he had already been through dozens of big games, won hard-fought series, and carried real weight on his shoulders. When a guy like Jokic looks at a rookie and sees maturity, that weighs more than any number on a spreadsheet. On the other side of this story, Golden State is trying to find a bit of inner peace in the middle of a season full of turbulence. It is no secret to anyone that the atmosphere behind the scenes has been heavy. The team went through tense moments, stretches of mediocre results, arguments, ejections, suspensions, and at a certain point it felt like everything was about to explode. To top it off, in one of the latest games, Draymond Green went back to the locker room and simply did not return to the game, feeding even more of the narratives that something was off between the roster, the coaching staff, and the front office. Only that, curiously, in the middle of the chaos, came one of those wins that cleanse the soul. Golden State steamrolled a strong opponent, controlled the game, and, for a few minutes, looked like that intense, connected, and deadly team that marked an era in the league. It was one of the most solid performances of the season, and not by accident. After that, they had days off, time for everyone to breathe, step away a bit, reorganize their heads, and come back to the gym with renewed focus. Sometimes, that small bit of distance between players is exactly what's needed for everyone to remember why they chose to walk this path together. When it comes to Draymond Green, inside the organization, the feeling is curious. A lot of people in there see the latest episode involving him as something relatively mild compared to other moments in his career. No one ignores the history, but there is a sort of internal consensus that the best answer Draymond usually gives is on the court. After a big incident with a former teammate in the preseason, for example, he responded with such an absurd defensive campaign that he ended up being selected to one of the all-defensive teams. The following season, he was among the main names in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. It is almost as if he needed that kind of jolt to flip back into his maximum competitiveness mode. The thing is, this time it is not enough to just make an emotional adjustment. Golden State is facing something bigger than just managing the temperament of one important piece. The entire team is under examination. A record hovering around 50%, something like 15 wins and 15 losses, does not match what you expect from a franchise used to competing for titles. You look at the roster and you see flashes of greatness. You see Curry still playing at a superstar level. You see moments when the defense comes together, but you feel the absence of one clear thing: consistent offensive production on the wing. This is where another name that has been circulating a lot behind the scenes comes in: Michael Porter Jr. This is not some random social media rumor. What people are saying is that, as the trade deadline approaches, Golden State has been exploring conversations with different teams, mapping scenarios, understanding price tags, and evaluating which move could really change the team's ceiling. In several of those scenarios, one of the most discussed targets is Porter Jr., currently standing out for the Brooklyn Nets, living one of the most productive stretches of his career, averaging somewhere in the high 20s in points per game, plus solid rebounding numbers and three-point efficiency that forces any defense to adjust. A scoring wing at that level is exactly the kind of piece that seems to be missing to unlock the Warriors' offense. You have Curry, who continues to be a scoring machine from everywhere on the floor. You have a player like Jimmy Butler, who still brings impact on both ends, making decisions, attacking the rim, guarding the other team's main star. But when you look at the rest of the roster, there is a lack of someone on the wing capable of punishing the defense consistently, of making them pay every time there is an inch of space, of making the opponent think twice before sending a double team at Steph. Michael Porter Jr. is exactly that kind of offensive problem. With enough size to shoot over defenders, mobility to come off screens, and a clean shooting motion, he stretches the defense in ways very few can. You cannot leave him alone at the three-point line. You cannot let him stay comfortable coming off movement. You cannot bet that he will hesitate if he gets the chance to attack a slower defender one-on-one. He is the kind of wing who, by himself, changes the geometry of the receiving team's offense. Of course, a player like that does not come cheap. Any conversation involving Porter Jr. inevitably goes through giving up young talents and draft picks. That is where names the Warriors fans have learned to defend with tooth and nail come in, like Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. They are players who are still growing, who offer physical explosiveness, defensive potential, and flashes of a brilliant future. There are those who look at them and see the next generation, the bridge between the Curry era and whatever comes next. Giving that up is not a small decision. On the other hand, there is a reality that can no longer be masked. The title window built around Stephen Curry is not going to stay open for many more years. He is still special, still decisive, still capable of flipping a game by himself when he gets hot, but the body does not go back in time. Every season that passes without Golden State giving him a roster worthy of his level is a wasted opportunity. That is why so many people inside and outside the franchise see this kind of move as a possible turning point, something that could put the Warriors back on the shelf of true contenders. In practice, a trade of this magnitude would probably involve a considerable package: Kuminga, Moody, maybe another rotation piece, and a set of future draft picks. On the Brooklyn Nets side, there is logic in listening to that kind of proposal. The team is in a moment where rebuilding carefully, piling up young assets and picks, might make more sense than insisting on a star who may not be aligned with the franchise's timeline. Turning a ready-made scorer into a consistent future foundation is exactly the kind of move rebuilding teams seriously consider. Now come back with me to the court. Imagine a lineup where Curry runs the show, Butler switches between creating and driving, and Porter Jr. occupies the wing, always ready to punish. Add to that the presence of Draymond Green as a secondary playmaker, finding cutters, initiating handoffs, and keeping the ball moving. The spacing opens up in a different way. Double-teaming Steph becomes an even bigger risk, because every defensive collapse turns into a pass to an elite shooter. And when the defense decides to stay planted on the perimeter, it opens lanes for drives and physical play in the paint. It is no coincidence that, at the same time, people talk about Cooper Flagg and chanting an MVP like Jokic. There are conversations in San Francisco about the need to bring in more offensive talent to share the load with Curry. The league is evolving fast. Young players arrive more ready than ever, with complete offensive repertoires, cold-blooded mentalities, and the confidence to decide games. If Golden State gets stuck in nostalgia, only remembering what it has already accomplished, it runs the risk of watching this new generation fly past it. In the middle of all this, there is also the emotional factor. Fans build bonds with young players like Kuminga and Moody. They see in them not just athletes but symbols of continuity. At the same time, there is a huge emotional attachment to the idea of seeing Curry fight for another title, not as a supporting character, but as the protagonist of a team that truly scares opponents. And it is exactly at this point that the front office finds itself facing a hard choice: protect the future or go all in on the present. While in the other conference, a kid like Cooper Flagg shows he does not feel the weight of the moment, playing with composure and hitting big shots, Golden State faces an uncomfortable question. Is this roster, as it is today, capable of facing deep, athletic teams loaded with offensive options in the toughest playoff series? Or has the time come to accept that, without a big change, the most likely fate is to fight just to survive, battling for a middle seed and exiting early in the postseason? This is where I want to hear from you, the fan, looking at all of this, at the rise of talents like Cooper Flagg, at the need to help Curry, at the impact a wing like Michael Porter Jr. could have on this offense. How do you see this possible move? Is it worth risking young players with huge upside for a ready-made scorer who fits perfectly into the team's offensive system? Picking up exactly where we left off, we need to tie all these threads together and give shape to this scenario that involves pressure, tough choices, and the weight of time running out. Because deep down, what is at stake is not just one specific trade, one temporary rumor, or a name that shows up in headlines. What is at stake is the identity of the Golden State Warriors and the direction the franchise is going to take from here on out. When a team spends so much time at the top, it is natural for an illusion of permanence to form. It starts to feel like things will always fall into place, that talent will solve everything, that the historic chemistry will be enough to get through bad stretches. But the league does not wait for anyone. While Golden State tries to find its balance again, new protagonists emerge. Cooper Flagg is a living example of this. He shows how modern basketball is fast and ruthless, how young players arrive ready to shoulder gigantic responsibilities, how the distance between potential and reality has become much shorter. And this contrast becomes even more evident when we remember the psychological impact of recent moments. Draymond Green, the emotional centerpiece of the team, constantly walks the line between the kind of intensity that inspires and the one that sometimes crosses the limit. When he left that game and did not return, many people saw it as a symbol of a season marked by extremes. Even so, inside the locker room there is a long-standing trust in him. Teammates and members of the organization believe that, when the dust settles, he responds by competing with a ferocity that is contagious. Recent history shows this. After the biggest controversies came some of the best defensive performances of his career. This matters because it helps explain the environment in which a decision about Michael Porter Jr. might happen. No one there wants to make a trade just to make noise. The idea is not to chase headlines, but to find a piece that truly solves a structural problem. Today, Golden State has one of the greatest shooters in history in Stephen Curry, a player with a competitive edge and two-way impact like Jimmy Butler, and a defensive leader and emotional organizer like Draymond Green. What they lack is someone on the perimeter who combines consistent scoring, size, youth, and spacing all at once. Porter Jr. offers exactly that mix. He is not just another three-point shooter. He is someone who can create his own shot, punish defensive switches, grab offensive rebounds with his size, and hurt opponents, even on nights when the outside shot is not falling. His style fits directly into the ball movement, quick read system the coach likes to run. He is the type of player who forces defenses into bad decisions. Either you stick to him and open space for cuts and drives, or you protect the paint and accept being bombarded from deep. That is why the debate gets so intense when the names Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody enter the equation. Kuminga represents explosiveness and future. A wing who has already shown the ability to attack the rim with force, guard multiple positions, and change the pace of a game purely with his energy. Moody, on the other hand, is about feel, shooting, and tactical discipline. Giving up both or even one of them is not just moving pieces around. It is touching the backbone of what could be the franchise's next chapter. But at the same time, every night in which Curry walks off the court, having done everything he could and still sees the team fluctuate, reinforces the sense of urgency. He is not declining. He continues to sink impossible shots, force double teams, and make opposing coaches draw up specific game plans just to try to slow him down. But he needs help. There is a limit to how much one player, no matter how great, can carry alone in a conference as deep and physical as the West. This is where the connection between the stories becomes clear. Cooper Flagg is rising with calm and immediate impact. Nikola Jokic, with all his vision, sees in him a maturity that usually only appears with time. This shows that the league is entering a new phase, with talents who do not ask for permission. For Golden State not to be left behind, it has to decide whether to keep pace by bringing in someone already ready like Porter Jr., or to bet that its own young core will make that leap in time to still take advantage of Curry's competitive prime. The Brooklyn Nets, meanwhile, have their own reasons to consider trades. The possibility of turning a high immediate value player into draft picks and young players creates flexibility to build a roster in the long term. They are not in a hurry, but they are also not closing the door on offers that could change the franchise's direction. This openness is what fuels the rumors, and, in a way, pushes Golden State to at least explore these scenarios seriously. Think about the court again. Imagine Curry being double-teamed as soon as he crosses half-court. Before, many times that resulted in passes to players who could not consistently turn that space into points. Now, imagine that pass-finding Porter Jr. spotted up in rhythm, with space, ready to shoot. The opponent starts living in a constant dilemma. Do you double Curry and risk almost automatic 3 points? Or do you defend him straight up and open driving lanes and soft spots around the paint? That kind of dilemma decides playoff series. There is also the locker room component. Players like Jimmy Butler are not satisfied with mediocre seasons. His competitive profile demands a roster that is willing to bleed for big wins. Bringing in a player like Porter Jr., who immediately raises the team's ceiling, is also an internal message. The organization is willing to do what it takes to truly compete, not just be part of the conversation. The fan base feels that. It senses when a team is kicking problems down the road and when it is facing hard decisions head-on. The Warriors' sense of identity has always been tied to courage, tactical boldness, and trust in the people running the team. It was like that when they changed their playing style, when they bet on spacing and long-range shooting, when they embraced small and creative lineups that changed how the entire league started playing. Now, once again, the team is approaching a decision point. It is important to remember that none of this erases what has already been built. The legacy of Curry, Draymond Green, and company is cemented. But sports do not live on the past alone. The question echoing today is simple and direct. Will this story still have new chapters of glory, or will it end slowly, without one last big push? A move for Michael Porter Jr. represents that push. It represents the calculated risk, the high-stakes bet, the all-or-nothing that often separates championship teams from teams that almost got there. At the same time, watching Cooper Flagg face veterans, stay composed, call his own number, and earn praise from Jokic is a reminder that the future of the league has already arrived. It is not some distant projection. It is happening now, on the court, in big games, against experienced defenders. And that sets two powerful narratives face to face. A legend trying to extend his prime, and a young phenomenon speeding up his climb to the top. When those lines cross, decisions gain weight. Golden State looks at Curry, at Butler, at Draymond Green, at Porter Jr. as a possibility, and at Kuminga and Moody as a promise. Every option has a cost. There is no path without risk. What exists is a choice. And choosing means taking responsibility for the present and the future at the same time. And this is exactly the point where everything comes together. The emergence of a new protagonist in the league, the pressure on a dynasty to prove it is still alive, the market offering rare opportunities, and a fan base that refuses to accept the idea of being just a supporting character. Cooper Flagg, Jokic, Curry, Draymond Green, Jimmy Butler, Michael Porter Jr., Kuminga, Moody, all of them are part of the same narrative web that defines this season. If you made it this far, it is because you truly care about what happens to this team and where this story is heading. So do this now. Hit the like button and subscribe. This strengthens our work, helps this content reach more fans who want to understand what is behind the rumors, and puts pressure on the decision-makers inside the organization to feel the voice of the stands. Click like, subscribe to the channel, and comment what you would do if you were in Golden State's front office. Would you keep the young players at all costs, or would you go for a big trade for Michael Porter Jr.? Kai Sotto has been drawing attention for his talent and the potential to become a dominant center in the league. Standing at 7'3", he's not only a rim protector but also a player who has greatly improved offensively. The question is, would he fit into the Warriors system? We know that adapting to the NBA is not easy, especially for a player coming from an international background, but Kai has already shown that he faces challenges head-on. Since beginning his professional basketball career, he has displayed an impressive learning curve and a growth mindset that could make all the difference. The Warriors always prioritize versatile players who know how to move well without the ball and contribute on both ends of the court. And that's where Kai Sotto could shine. He's not just a traditional center who protects the paint, but also a mobile and intelligent player capable of helping with offensive plays. The big question now is, who will give Kai Sotto this chance? The Warriors could benefit from a young and promising center, but other teams may also be eyeing him. What's certain is that he has all the potential to grow in the NBA, as long as he gets the right opportunity. Kai Sotto's future is promising, but he still needs to find the team and system that best suit his style. If the Warriors decide to give him a chance, it could not only strengthen the roster, but also bring a new dynamic to Golden State's front court. After all, with the Warriors' winning mentality, the sky is the limit for any young talent. So, did you like the video? Don't waste any time and hit the like button because it helps a lot with spreading the word. If you have anything to add or want to share your opinion, leave a comment. We love hearing what you think. And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates about our team. See you next time, everyone. Let's go together towards another great season.